I mean, probably looking at the benchmark pack in the comp, how do you approach the challenge and where can you guys get?
Yeah, I suppose we've just finished off our review of that game, to be totally honest, and we're about to get onto the Crusaders now. Obviously, the coaches have had a really good look at them, and as you said, I think they're a benchmark pack. They're probably the benchmark at a lot of areas across the game. I think, so far as to say where we'll go and get them, I think it's probably better for us to look at where we need to improve. After a win or after a loss, you need to be critical on where we are, and we understand that our breakdown probably wasn't good enough on the weekend, and statistically that's probably where they're the strongest across the competition. They're incredibly competitive at the breakdown, and if we're going to go and try and do a job in Christchurch this weekend, we need to improve our efficiency at the breakdown. That'll improve our quick ball, and hopefully we can convert some of those opportunities.
There's a lot of interplay between their forwards as well in general play. How does that change things for you in the way you have to defend?
I think the amount of passes they do, obviously, in their general shape is more than other teams. But I think if your line is solid, obviously you've got good width across the field, you should be able to manage that. They're very skillful, obviously. They do have some deception there, but it's just about guys doing their role properly, understanding that we can't get too narrow because otherwise they'll go into those wide channels and really sting you.
Because you guys give up some size to other teams, you always talk about mobility. How do you think that is going? Do you think you're making the most of that point of difference?
No, I think at the breakdown we'd love to get more turnovers. I think Will Miller and Michael Hooper are doing a great job, and Michael Wells as well, at slowing the ball at the breakdown down. In terms of the weekend set piece, people talk about us being a small pack, but obviously we can still get the job done at the line out, I think. And at scrum time, there was pretty clear parity there as well. So at set piece time, there's not too much issue there. We've got a certain way of how we go about doing our business. And around the field, I think at times, as you'll see in a lot of games, we're there towards right up until the 80-minute mark. So that mobility is helping us. Whether we need to obviously hinge on that a little bit more, I'm not sure. But at the moment, we're pretty happy and comfortable in the way we want to play. It's just about execution, not so much about getting around the field so much. It's just about the little things to be able to build pressure. So I think if we can keep the ball in play longer and not turn it over as many times as we did on the weekend, we can use that mobility and try and keep the game longer and hopefully slow some of the other teams' bigger players down.
And how do you do that? Is that a mental thing? Is that just...
potentially, yeah. I think obviously there's some tactical and technical elements in it. I think players need to understand when we can and can't offload the ball, and we're growing at that. As you've heard Chris say before, every opportunity and every mistake's a learning opportunity. So guys, you throw one offload and you go back and review the tape and you realise that it wasn't on, you learn from that. So that's probably a mental battle, but also tactically knowing when to do it and then technically how to do it as well. So I don't think it's just mental. I think there's some element in it that you can train.
Mate, how do you feel you're going?
I'm going okay. Yeah, look, obviously there's still elements in my game that I'd love to improve. I sit down with the coaches every week. We're not exactly where we want to be, and I think every player has little areas that they want to improve on, and I'm no different.
So when you look around the booking stocks at the moment, it's pretty wide open for June for the Wallabies. Do you feel you're in the picture there?
I'd like to think so. I'm trying to play as best I possibly can. I'm not sure what kind of hooker Czech's looking for that June series, but if I can keep playing the way I'd like to play, I'd hope to think that potentially I was in the question. And it's just one of those things. You just got to play well for your team, and then hopefully what comes later will.
Obviously, a good performance against virtually an All Blacks front row would help.
That does help, yeah, exactly. So anytime you come up against international players, obviously that's something that the selectors are looking for. So we'll have a big challenge for us.
Look, I just thought I was watching the Brumbies at times there. The maul seems to be something you guys are going to a little bit. You're enjoying doing something different?
Yeah, we've worked pretty hard on that. That's the only way you can really get good at mauls, and that's doing them. So our forwards coach Simon Cron and also our line-out leaders have been really good at picking the perfect times of the games to do those. And I think technically we're obviously in a better position than we have been in the past to execute those. We got some really good play on the weekend. We, probably would have liked a couple more penalties or a couple more outcomes at the back of those mauls, but we were pretty pleased with them. It's something we'll continue.